Have you ever felt completely overwhelmed by self doubt? As if no matter what you achieved, it's never quite enough for you to believe in yourself? Well, that was me. I've been there too. These five truths helped me to stop believing that I was an imposter, and I began to build a life of my dreams. So, if you want to learn how to silence the negative self talk, how to stop seeing failure as proof that you're not enough, and then finally take the action without waiting to feel ready, then this video is for you. And I want to invite you to stick around for the last truth. It was the hardest to accept, but it turned out to be the most life changing. Truth number one: I quit letting negative self talk predict my future. I used to wake up every morning with thoughts like, what if I mess up today? Or, why bother trying, Mary Lou? You're probably going to fail. I would constantly berate myself. And I would say things like, you can't do this. You're not good enough. And then when things went wrong, I would reinforce these thoughts by saying, of course that happened. What did I expect? So, negative self talk isn't just a passing thought, it is a habit that controlled how I viewed myself. At first, I didn't believe that this would work, but after studying neuroscience and thought work, I decided to try what I'm going to teach you. So, I began catching my thoughts, and I would say something like, I'm not cut out for this. I'd catch it and then I would replace it with, I'm learning as I go. Now, I was surprised at first that this was working because I started to notice small changes like less hesitation, more willingness to try new things, and I started to feel more confident. So I've come to understand that negative self talk essentially is a rehearsal for failure. By constantly telling myself that I wasn't good enough, what I was doing was unintentionally wiring in neural pathways that manifested the experiences that I didn't want, that manifested the experiences that proved over and over that I wasn't good enough. I was reinforcing in my brain that neural pathway that I'm not good enough over and over. And I was making that neural pathway stronger and stronger. So the shift really happened when I started to catch those thoughts. And I would say, thank you, but no thank you. And then I would tell myself what I wanted to believe instead, which was, keep going, Mary Lou. You've got this. So when you hear a negative thought that pops up today, what I want you to do is I want you to pause. I want you to practice. I want you to say, thank you for sharing, but I'm choosing a new thought. And then you can replace it with what you want to hear. You can replace it with something neutral or positive. So, for example, if you say something like, I always fail, you could catch that thought and then instead say, I'm learning as I go. And then just notice how that feels internally. Doing this repeatedly will begin to rewire your mind. Truth number two: I quit believing that failure defined my worth. There was a time in my life when I felt like my life was just this series of failures that were stacked one on top of the other. For 15 years, I battled an alcohol addiction, and that addiction carried so much shame. Shame and pain for the hurt that I caused my loved ones. Shame for, being an alcoholic. Shame for, all the stupid decisions that I made, shame and guilt, and all of my missed opportunities. The turning point came when I realized that failure isn't a reflection of who I am. It's a reflection of a moment in time of my growth. My worth has nothing to do if I fail or succeed. My worth for myself is unconditional. It isn't up for negotiation. It's not something that I have to earn by being perfect or getting everything right. It was always there, waiting for me to claim it. So I began to understand that failure isn't a final destination, that it's part of the process, that it's growth. My addiction and the mistakes that I made didn't have to be the end of my story. They were just chapters, not the entire book. And so when I got sober, guess what I did? I decided to heal the trauma that was causing the drinking. I forgave myself, and I will tell you that wasn't easy. But I began by shifting my perspective. And instead of seeing my mistakes as evidence of my inadequacy, I began seeing them as proof of my resilience. I was still standing. I was still there. And now I'm living my best effing life. And that means something. So when you feel like a failure, I want you to try this exercise. Number one, I want you to identify a failure that has been weighing on you. Number 2, write down 3 lessons that this experience has taught you. Number 3, write a positive statement such as, I am worthy and my experiences contribute to my growth. And then I want you to place this somewhere where you're going to see it often. Read it. Read it when you wake up. Read it before you go to bed. You don't need to believe it perfectly right away, but over time, your brain will start to rewire that belief that you are worthy and that your worth transcends any single experience. And with time, you will begin to feel differently. Trust me, I know because it's worked for me, and I can't wait for you to try it. I realized that my worth isn't determined by my failures. And so embracing this perspective has allowed me to see failures as a part of the growth process, not as a definition of my self-worth. Truth number 3, I quit waiting until I felt ready. Now, this is a big one because I used to think, and I'm giggling because I used to think that confidence was something that just magically appeared when you were truly ready. Like one day I was going to wake up and all of the fear and the doubt would be gone. I thought that once I felt confident, I'd be able to handle anything with ease. But here's the thing, that day never came. I waited. I did. I procrastinated. I second guessed myself on decisions. And I will tell you, I talked myself out of a lot of opportunities that scared me. I told myself the same old story about failure and same old story about not being good enough. And I stayed stuck because I convinced myself that I wasn't ready. So whether it's launching a project or making an important decision or even having a tough conversation, I delayed taking action because I wanted the perfect moment, the moment where fear didn't exist. And I will tell you, that moment never came. So one day I took the leap despite the fear, despite the voices in my head saying, "You're not ready, Mary Lou." I did something that totally scared me. And you know what? I survived it. It wasn't perfect, but I didn't die. The world didn't fall apart. And in that moment, I realized that waiting for confidence was a trap. Confidence doesn't come before the action. It comes because of the action. So each time I faced something uncomfortable and I did it, I felt a little stronger. And that strength built momentum, and that momentum built confidence. So think about swimming. You don't learn to swim by standing on the shore waiting until you feel like a swimmer. I learned to swim a few years ago, by the way. You learn by getting in the water, by practicing floating, by putting your head under the water, but you're always learning. And confidence works the same way. The more you do it, the more you prove to yourself that you can handle it, that you're not going to die. So think about that one thing that you've been putting off because you don't feel ready, whether it's reaching out to a potential client, whether it's starting a passion project, or even having a difficult conversation with somebody. I want to invite you to commit to taking one small step today, even if it's messy. Just start. You'll find that even a small step will create a ripple effect, making the next step easier and easier. And if you do take action, share your experiences in the comments because I'd love to be able to cheer you on and help you recognize how powerful small wins can be. And I want you to know I've been where you are. I've waited for so long, but once I stopped waiting and I started moving, my life began to really change. Truth number 4, I quit being afraid of success. Now, this one surprised me because I didn't even realize I was afraid of success. I was not walking around going, I don't want success in my life. I'm afraid of more success in my life. I will tell you I was not doing that. But it was below my conscious awareness because every time I was close to achieving something really big, I'd find a way to self-sabotage. I'd find a way to procrastinate. So deep down, I was afraid of what success would mean. What if I couldn't sustain the success? What if people expected more from me than I could give? What if I let people down? What if I lose everything? What if people treat me differently? So I want to share with you something really fascinating that happens in our brain when it comes to creating more success in our life. Your brain has no frame of reference for the new reality that you are creating with success. So that means your brain considers it unsafe. Your brain is a predicting machine, and when it cannot predict the future, It considers success, the thing that you want, unsafe. Let me give you an example. Multi-million dollar Mary Lou. So there is no frame of reference in my brain for what life looks like and feels like as multi-million dollar Mary Lou. It's not my normal yet. So I'm sharing with you something that is a really big deal, and a lot of people don't understand this. And this is why they feel the resistance in their body, because the brain and the nervous system may deem success as a threat because your brain can't predict what's next. So I knew that I wanted to think differently and feel differently about success. The first thing I asked myself is, what do I want to believe about success? And I will tell you, I wanted to believe that I could achieve success without sacrificing, that I could achieve success by being my authentic self, that I could achieve success and that I had the resilience and the strength and the self-trust to be able to handle whatever comes my way, even if it's my unknown or my unfamiliar. I wanted to believe that success is safe and that I can enjoy the process. So I'm going to teach you what I learned about how to make success more safe in your mind and in your body. And I learned this visualization tool. When you can visualize what success looks like and you tune into how it feels, you begin to normalize this process. You begin to teach your brain what it looks like. You begin to teach your body what success feels like. And then what you're doing is you're giving it that frame of reference. Since your brain doesn't know the difference between real or imagined, I would close my eyes and I would visualize multi-million dollar Mary Lou. And I would imagine what my life looks like. And I would have so much fun. I have so much fun in visualization. And you can visualize anytime. You can just take a few minutes to use your imagination and visualize how you want your life to be with more success. And create your new normal. This is powerful stuff. I love teaching this stuff. It's so much fun. Truth number 5, I quit living in scarcity. I will tell you, this was the hardest. It really, really was. And if you want me to do other videos on how to move from scarcity to abundance using really powerful and quick tools, let me know down below. But I want to share with you that I was born into poverty. My parents were immigrants to this country. I was raised in poverty. And I took that poverty mindset with me everywhere I went. So throughout my 20s, throughout my 30s, throughout my 40s, decades. When I became an entrepreneur, I had 16 cents in my bank account and I was drowning in fear. I did not know how I was going to survive. My brain was trapped in this constant loop of scarcity, of there's never enough money, never enough clients. There was never enough of anything. My brain was fixated on what I didn't have in my life. Even I remember saying, I don't have enough time. And I certainly didn't have enough opportunities. And I'd constantly ask myself, why me? Then I would compare myself to all the people who I thought had it figured all out. And I would say things like, and maybe you can relate, it's so easy for them and it's so hard for me. So I was stuck in this loop, convinced that I wasn't meant for money or abundance and that I would always be broke. I was so sick of struggling. My mind and my nervous system were hardwired in survival mode, not abundance. I began studying neuroplasticity, okay? The brain's ability to learn and grow. And I started to realize if my brain could be trained to expect scarcity and lack, what if I could train my brain to expect abundance instead? So I knew I had two choices: stay stuck in scarcity or completely rewire my thinking and just break out of this habit of scarcity that I had created. And of course, I chose the second. And I discovered something really profound. The brain responds to what we feed it. It wasn't about ignoring my reality. It was about intentionally shifting my focus toward what I did want to see in my life, what I did want to create versus what I didn't have and what I feared. And so I started with self-hypnosis. And if you want me to do a video on that, I'd be more than happy to, because I love self-hypnosis. Hypnosis accelerates neuroplasticity if used correctly. So I began rewiring my mind and my nervous system for abundance. And this wasn't just about positive thinking. It was about rewiring so that I could seek and find the evidence of abundance. And boy, did I find evidence of abundance. It's all around me, it's inside of me, it flows to me and through me. But I couldn't see that then because all I could see was lack. But I didn't stop there. I ended up creating this new identity. During the day, I was thinking and feeling and acting from abundant Mary Lou, not scarcity Mary Lou. I started focusing my attention on what I did have. For example, how much money was in my bank account, not how much money was not in my bank account. I asked myself, what if I chose to see what's possible instead of what's missing? And it changed everything. I celebrated the tiniest wins, like just finding a few dollars. Or I remember the grocery store, don't laugh, but the grocery store used to dysregulate me, meaning that I would go into panic mode, into survival mode when I'd walk into a grocery store. Because every time I'd go into a grocery store, I'd pick up my phone and I would look at my bank account to see if I had enough money to pay for my groceries. And every time I did that, my heart would race. I'd be like, how much money is in my bank account? And so grocery stores gave me a little bit of PTSD. So here's what I want to share with you. Even though my hands were shaking when I went into the grocery store, I stopped because I knew that I had the tools to be able to shift into safety. Maybe I wasn't able to shift into abundance in that moment, but I could shift into safety. I started to practice deep breathing. I started to practice taking my body out of survival mode. And I will tell you, I celebrated that. That was like a big win for me. It was a big win that I could go near a grocery store and not like start to sweat or feel my heart beating. And I would say, it's safe. It's safe for me to be in a grocery store. It's safe for me to check my bank balance. It's safe for me to buy what I need to buy. And bit by bit, I began to rewire my mind and my nervous system. And not only did I begin to shift how I felt, I began to expect abundance. Today, I've built a 7-figure business, but it started with me rewiring myself to believe that abundance was possible. So let's retrain your brain to see abundance. I want to give you something simple that you can practice, and it is a brain rewiring exercise. So first, think of something abundant in your life today, like paying a bill, or maybe you received support, or maybe an opportunity presented itself. So I want you to think of those things, and then I want you to expand, and I want you to find 3 more examples of where abundance has shown up in your life today. And then I want you to take a moment to breathe, because you may not see abundance right away, but if you practice this exercise, you will begin to see abundance. And then you can practice the breathing, and you can say things like, abundance has shown up for me, and it'll show up for me again. Abundance has shown up for me, and it'll show up for me again. Now, this is really simple. It's powerful, but basically what we're doing is we're stacking proof of abundance. And when we do that, it's easier for your brain to find even more. If you are ready to stop living paycheck to paycheck and you want to create a life that's rooted in abundance, drop a comment down below and I'll send you a link to download my free guide. It's designed with all kinds of powerful brain rewiring techniques that took me from 16 cents to 7 figures. So I'm super excited to share that with you. Quitting these 5 things wasn't easy, but it was totally worth it. And now I feel like I have confidence, and not just confidence. I feel like I have unstoppable confidence, and I'm living a life of peace. I'm aligned, and I am having so much fun. There's so much goodness that I shared in this video, but the key takeaway for you is to really understand is that confidence is not something you're born with. It's something that you create by letting go of what no longer serves you. So I would love to know which of these 5 truths resonated with you the most. I want to hear your story. So comment below and let me know what you are quitting today. And I will tell you, I read everyone's responses and I can't wait to connect with you. If you want to dive deeper into how I shifted from scarcity into making lots and lots of money, I have an entire video called If I Could Go Back in Time, Here's What I'd Tell Myself About Money. It's totally changed my life. It'll include all the steps so that you can change your life too. So just click on the screen right there to watch it. And until the next time, go out there and live your unstoppable life.